I was thinking about Sauvignon Blanc earlier, and it's so interesting.
Really?
Like how you can get a glass that's so elegant and restrained,
Right.
and then another one that's bursting with this vibrant fruitiness.
Totally.
Almost like it's two completely different grapes,
Yeah.
but it's not. It's just Sauvignon Blanc, and
Yeah.
it seems like it all comes back to where it's grown, you know?
Yeah. It's all about the terroir.
That's it. The terroir. It's kind of like the deciding factor for Sauvignon Blanc's personality.
You hit the nail on the head there, and that's precisely what we're diving into today,
And that's great because, I love a good deep dive.
Yeah, you've got some really fascinating research here.
Yeah, I tried to find a good variety of sources.
You really did, and it all kind of points to this compelling comparison,
Yeah.
The world of Sauvignon Blanc, how it shows up so differently in these two really famous regions.
Oh, right. Yeah.
The Loire Valley in France and Marlborough in New Zealand.
So that's going to be our focus today.
Yeah, our mission is to really uncover what makes Sauvignon Blanc from these two places so unique.
Like what gives them their distinct personalities.
Exactly. So we've got quite a journey ahead of us.
That seemed like a lot of material.
Yeah, we've got the history of the grape itself.
Oh, right. Like
Yeah.
how did Sauvignon Blanc even become a thing?
Exactly. And then we'll look at those specifics, the soil, the climate in both regions.
Right, because that's terroir, isn't it?
It is. It is. And then how the vines are taking care of what goes on in the winery, and of course, what we find in the glass.
Oh, yeah, the important part.
Exactly, the aromas and flavors, and then even, zooming out how these wines are perceived globally.
Oh, wow. So like market trends and things?
That's right. We'll be touching on that too. So yeah, a real deep dive into the heart of Sauvignon Blanc.
I love it.
And it's interesting what you said earlier about how Sauvignon Blanc can be so different depending on where it's grown.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And some of this research actually highlighted that right at the beginning.
Oh, okay, cool.
Sauvignon Blanc has a long history, and the Loire Valley is a big part of that.
Oh, okay, right.
It's like its home base.
Hmm.
And from there, it kind of went on this global adventure, spread all over the place. And what's really cool is its ability to adapt and reflect its environment.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, it's like it takes on the characteristics of its surroundings, making it a truly captivating grape to explore.
Okay, so terroir seems like a good place to start then.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because that's what really stood out to me in all these articles and books.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, it's not just about the grape itself, right?
No, it's not.
It's this whole interplay between the climate, the soil,
Right.
and even the way people have been making wine in a region for centuries.
You got it. And all of that shapes the wine's character.
So it's like a recipe with loads of ingredients.
That's a great way to put it. And, one of the articles described it so well. They said Sauvignon Blanc is like this blank aromatic canvas.
Oh, wow.
And the terroir is the artist,
I like that.
Using climate and soil like brushstrokes.
And those brushstrokes create the final picture.
They do. They determine whether you'll get those, crisp, flinty, herbaceous notes.
Oh, yeah.
Or that burst of tropical fruit. It's really amazing.
It is. So terroir is really the essence.
It is the essence, the soul of the wine.
Okay, so I think we have a good grasp on terroir now.
Yeah, I think so.
And speaking of terroir, the Loire Valley in France seems like the perfect place to begin our journey.
It really is.
Because, it's considered the ancestral home of Sauvignon Blanc.
It is the birthplace, you could say. And a lot of the sources talked about how it's this foundational region for the grape.
Yeah. Particularly for those classic white wines.
Yes, Sancerre and Puy-Fumé.
They really stand out, don't they?
They do. They're renowned for their complexity and distinctive character.
It's like the Loire Valley is where the story of Sauvignon Blanc first began.
Exactly. It's where the first chapter was written.
And it's still being written today.
Absolutely. The Loire has truly set the benchmark for what we consider that classic, elegant style of Sauvignon Blanc.
Okay, so it's the OG of Sauvignon Blanc.
You could say that, yeah, it's the gold standard.
So what is it about the Loire's terroir that makes it so special for Sauvignon Blanc?
Oh, a lot of things, actually.
Yeah.
But the research pointed to a few key elements.
Okay, like what?
The climate, for one thing, it's what they call temperate continental.
Okay, so that means warm summers and cold winters.
That's the basic idea, but what's really important are these maritime breezes.
Oh, hey.
Coming in from the Atlantic. So that means cool winters, mild springs, warm summers for those grapes to ripen perfectly.
Right.
And then a crucial part, cool, dry autumns.
Why is that so important?
Well, that's the time when the grapes are developing those complex aromas.
Okay.
And that dryness helps to preserve the acidity.
That zingy freshness.
Exactly. It creates this really harmonious balance in the grapes.
So it's more than just hot or cold. It's this perfect combination of conditions.
Yeah. You got it.
Now, what about the soil in the Loire?
Oh, the soil is fascinating.
Yeah.
There's so much variety. It's almost like a geological tapestry.
Wow. Okay. What kind of soils are we talking about?
Well, you have limestone in different forms.
Okay.
What they call terre blanches and calottes.
I've heard of those.
Then there's flint or silex.
Oh, flint. That's interesting.
And you also have different types of clay soils.
Wow. So it's a real mix.
It is. And the fascinating thing is that each soil type seems to give something different to the wine.
Like what, for example?
Well, limestone tends to contribute to the wine's minerality.
Okay.
And that overall structure, it gives it backbone.
Right.
Clay soils, on the other hand, can influence the texture.
How so?
Well, they can make the wine feel a bit richer on the palate.
Oh, interesting.
And they can also affect the aromatic profile.
So different soils, different aromas.
Exactly.
That's so cool.
And then there's flint, which you mentioned earlier.
Right.
Not flint. Yeah, silex. And it's particularly well known in Pouilly-Fumé. They say it gives the wines this very distinct minerality.
It's famous for that, isn't it?
It is a gunflint or whetstone character.
Oh, I've heard that before.
Yeah, it adds this sort of smoky, earthy edge, which is very unique to the region.
That's so specific to the soil type.
It really is.
That's fascinating.
And many people find it incredibly appealing.
Well, I can see why.
It really sets those wines apart.
Okay, so we've got this balanced climate and this amazing variety of soils.
Right.
But the Loire Valley is quite big, isn't it?
It is.
So does that mean the wines taste different depending on where in the Loire they're from?
It absolutely does, and that's where these subregions come in.
Oh, right. Sancerre, Pouilly-Fumé, and Touraine.
Exactly. Those were the key areas highlighted in the research.
So each of these subregions kind of has its own personality.
That's a great way to put it. They really showcase how the terroir can change even within a relatively small area.
Okay, I'm ready for a tour of the Loire subregions.
Great. Let's start with Sancerre.
Okay.
Famous for its Sauvignon Blanc.
Sure.
And the soil there is predominantly limestone.
Ah, right. We talked about that. Terre blanches and caillottes.
You remember those are the two main types. And they give you these incredibly elegant wines.
Elegant. So not the super fruity style?
No, not quite. They're intensely aromatic, but in a more refined way.
Oh, okay. So what kind of aromas?
Well, you often get a lot of gooseberry.
I love that gooseberry character.
It's classic Sauvignon Blanc, isn't it?
It is. And then what else?
You might get elderflower.
Oh, that's delicate and floral.
It is. And then some lovely bright citrus notes, too.
So a really complex and layered aroma profile.
Exactly.
And you mentioned those two types of limestone.
Right.
Do they both contribute the same aromas?
Well, interestingly, they each have their own influence.
Oh, okay.
The caillots, which are more gravelly,
Okay.
they tend to produce wines with a bit more fruit,
Oh, interesting.
like ripe white peach and even a hint of tropical fruit.
Ah, so a little bit of that exotic character.
Yeah, just a touch, and then the terre blanches.
Right, the chalkier limestone.
That's one that those contribute more to the structure of the wine.
Giving it more body.
Exactly, and complexity and aging potential, too.
Oh, so those are the ones you can cellar for a while.
Yeah, potentially.
Fascinating how those subtle differences in the soil can have such a big impact on the wine.
It really is remarkable.
So we've done Sancerre. What about Pouilly-Fumé?
Ah, Pouilly-Fumé just across the river,
Yeah.
but with its own distinct personality.
Well, we know the soil's different, right?
Yes, that's a key factor. Much more of that flint soil, silex.
Which gives it that smoky character.
Exactly, that gunflint or whetstone minerality.
And that's really what sets it apart.
It does. It's a signature of Pouilly-Fumé.
So what else do you get aromatically besides that smokiness?
Well, you still get those lovely white fruits.
Oh, like in Sancerre.
Similar, but perhaps a bit riper. Think juicy gooseberry pear.
Oh, pear. I love that.
And then you get those citrus notes and that characteristic herbaceous touch.
So a bit more grassy?
Yeah, subtle but noticeable.
Okay, and how about the taste? Is it similar to Sancerre?
Well, it's still very elegant.
Right.
But Pouilly-Fumé is known for its intensity on the palate.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and a long, satisfying finish.
So it lingers a bit longer.
It does. It makes you want to take another sip.
Okay, Pouilly-Fumé done. What about Touraine?
Touraine a bit different again.
In what way?
Well, it tends to be a bit more approachable.
Approachable? What does that mean in wine terms?
It means it's often more fruit-forward,
Okay.
especially when it's young, and it's generally considered a bit easier to drink.
So a good everyday Sauvignon Blanc.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay, and what about the aromas?
Well, you'll often find crisp green apple.
Oh, nice and refreshing.
It is, and then some zesty grapefruit.
That's classic Sauvignon Blanc.
It is, and then some of those grassy herbaceous notes, too.
So a bit of everything.
Yeah, a nice blend.
And is it also quite versatile with food?
It is. You can pair it with a wide range of dishes.
So a real crowd pleaser.
That's Touraine Sauvignon Blanc.
Okay, so that's the Loire Valley in a nutshell.
3 distinct subregions, each with its own unique expression of Sauvignon Blanc.
All thanks to those subtle shifts in the terroir.
Exactly. It's all about the interplay of climate and soil.
I'm starting to get a real feel for this terroir thing.
That's great.
Now, we've talked about the terroir and the different subregions.
Yeah.
But what about how they actually grow the grapes in the Loire?
Oh, that's viticulture, the art and science of grape growing.
And is there anything specific to the Loire?
Well, the sources emphasize this really meticulous approach in the Loire.
Okay.
They're very focused on cultivating the vines to achieve excellence.
So it's all about attention to detail.
It really is.
What kind of things do they do?
Well, canopy management is a big one.
Canopy management. What's that?
It's all about managing the leaves and shoots of the vine.
Oh, okay. Why is that important?
Well, it helps to control how much sunlight the grapes get.
So they don't get sunburned.
Exactly. And it also ensures good airflow, which helps to prevent diseases.
Oh, that makes sense.
And then there's yield control.
Yield control. That sounds important.
It is because lower yields often mean more concentrated flavors in the grapes.
So it's about quality over quantity.
Exactly.
And how do they control the yield?
Well, they use various techniques like pruning.
Pruning, right. So they cut away some of the vine.
That's right. And they often use a specific method called the Guillot system in the Loire.
I'll have to look that one up.
It's a common pruning technique. And then there's a growing trend towards organic and biodynamic farming.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah, it's becoming increasingly popular.
So are a lot of Loire winemakers going organic?
More and more are making the switch.
Why is that?
Well, they want to express the unique characteristics of their land as purely as possible.
So it's about minimizing intervention
That's a big part of it.
and working in harmony with nature.
Exactly.
So it's a holistic approach to viticulture.
It really is, and it's all about respecting the terroir.
So those carefully tended grapes finally get harvested.
They do, and then they head to the winery.
For vinification, that's the winemaking part.
That's right. It's where the magic happens.
And what's the typical approach in the Loire?
Well, in the Loire, you see this fascinating blend of traditional and modern techniques.
Oh, interesting. So old meets new.
Exactly. And one common practice is fermentation in stainless steel tanks.
Okay, I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's very widely used for white wines.
And why stainless steel?
Well, it helps to preserve the freshness and those delicate aromas of Sauvignon Blanc.
Oh, right. So it doesn't add any extra flavors.
Exactly. It lets the grape speak for itself.
And they also control the temperature during fermentation, right?
They do. That's crucial.
Why is that?
Well, different temperatures can affect the final flavor of the wine.
Oh, interesting.
And then after fermentation, sometimes they do something called sur-lie aging.
Sur-lie, what does that mean?
It means the wine is left in contact with its lees.
Lees, what are those?
They're the spent yeast cells that settle at the bottom of the tank after fermentation.
Okay, and what does that do to the wine?
Oh, well, it can add complexity and a richer, more rounded texture.
So it's like an extra layer of flavor.
You could say that.
Interesting. And what about oak? Is that used much in the Loire?
It can be used, but generally it's quite restrained.
Restrained, so they don't want too much oak flavor.
That's right. They want to showcase the purity of the Sauvignon Blanc.
So it's about subtlety.
Exactly. And if they do use oak, it's more to add just a hint of toast or vanilla.
Not to overpower the wine.
Precisely.
And did I read something about skin contact?
Yes, some winemakers might experiment with that.
So leaving the grape skins in contact with the juice.
That's right, and that can extract more aromatic compounds from the skins.
Giving it more flavor.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of experimentation going on in the Loire.
There is. They're always trying new things while still respecting the traditions.
Okay, so that's the winemaking. What about the finished product? What does a Loire Sauvignon Blanc typically taste like?
Well, when you pour a glass,
Okay, I'm pouring.
you'll usually see a pale straw-like color.
Okay, pale straw. I can picture that.
And on the nose, you get this beautiful spectrum of aromas.
The exciting part.
It is, and it can range from those vibrant citrus notes
Oh, yes, that zesty character.
to fresh white fruits.
Like gooseberry.
Exactly. And then those herbaceous and delicate floral aromas.
So a bit of everything.
It's a beautiful blend, and then underpinning it all is that characteristic minerality.
Ah, yes, the taste of the soil.
Exactly. And on the palate, These wines are typically dry and incredibly refreshing.
Dry, so not sweet at all.
No bone dry.
And refreshing because of the acidity.
That's right, that lively, zesty acidity we talked about.
Okay, so that gives you that mouth-watering sensation.
Exactly.
And of course, these specific aromas and flavors will vary depending on the subregion, right?
That's right. Remember we talked about Sancerre with its gooseberry and floral hints?
Yeah, and Pouilly-Fumé with that smoky edge.
And then Touraine, which is more fruit-forward.
So each one has its own fingerprint.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, so that's Loire Sauvignon Blanc, elegant, often with a pronounced minerality.
Yep.
And a real sense of place.
Terroir shining through.
Exactly, terroir. Okay, are we ready to move on to New Zealand?
I think so.
To Marlborough.
Let's take a leap across the globe.
A big one. All right, Marlborough, here we come. And it seems like Marlborough's Sauvignon Blanc is a bit of a rock star.
It really is.
Like, it came onto the scene and totally shook things up.
Absolutely. It's been a real game changer for Sauvignon Blanc.
So tell me about it.
Well, Marlborough burst onto the international wine scene.
When was that?
I think it started gaining recognition in the 1980s and 90s.
So relatively recently.
Yeah, compared to the Loire.
And it completely changed what people expected from Sauvignon Blanc. How so?
Well, the wines were just so intensely aromatic.
Oh, right. That's their calling card, isn't it?
It is, and vibrantly fruity.
Like sunshine in a glass.
Exactly.
So what was the secret?
Well, it all comes down to the terroir again.
Okay, so Marlborough has its own unique set of characteristics.
It does the climate, the soil, they all play a role.
So tell me about Marlborough's climate. What's it like?
It's classified as cool maritime.
Cool maritime, okay.
But what's really important is the amount of sunshine they get.
Oh, right. Sunshine is essential for grape ripening.
It is, and Marlborough gets a lot of it, particularly during the growing season.
So nice, long, sunny days.
Exactly.
And that helps to develop those intense aromas.
You got it.
But it's not just sunshine.
No, it's not. You also need cool nights.
Why is that?
Well, those cool nights help to preserve the acidity in the grapes.
Oh, right. So the flavors stay fresh and vibrant.
Precisely.
And that's what gives those Marlborough Sauvignon Blancs their temoralizing.
Exactly.
And the sources mention something about rainfall.
Right. They get relatively low rainfall during the growing season.
So the grapes don't get diluted.
That's right. The flavors stay concentrated.
And there's this term diurnal temperature variation.
Ah, yes. That's a big one in Marlborough.
Okay, break that down for me. What does it mean?
It means the difference between the daytime and nighttime temperatures.
Oh, okay, so warm days and cool nights.
Exactly. And that big temperature swing is crucial for developing aromas in the grapes.
So it's like a workout for the grapes.
You could say that it stresses them in a good way.
And that stress makes them more flavorful.
Exactly.
Okay, now what about the soil in Marlborough?
Well, it's predominantly alluvial.
Alluvial, I'm not familiar with that term.
It means the soil has been deposited by rivers over time.
Oh, I see. So it's been brought down from the mountains?
That's right.
And what kind of soil is it exactly?
Well, you typically find layers of gravel, silt, and clay.
So it's free draining.
It is. The water can pass through easily.
And that's good for the vines.
It prevents them from getting waterlogged.
Now, I remember reading that these alluvial soils are often low in nutrients.
Yes, that's right.
Is that a bad thing?
Well, it might sound like a problem,
Yeah.
but it actually forces the vine roots to grow deeper.
Deeper into the ground?
Exactly, in search of water and nutrients.
So they have to work harder.
They do.
And what's the benefit of that?
Well, those deeper roots can access different minerals and nutrients in the soil.
Oh, so it's like they're mining for flavor.
Exactly.
And that results in more concentrated flavors in the grapes.
Precisely.
So it's like a different kind of stress leading to a different kind of intensity.
It's all about how the vines adapt to their environment.
So fascinating.
Now, just like in the Loire,
Yeah.
Marlborough has distinct subregions too.
Oh, right, because even within Marlborough, the terroir can vary.
Those subtle differences in climate and soil can lead to different expressions of Sauvignon Blanc.
So which subregions are we talking about?
Well, the research highlighted two key areas.
Okay.
The Loire Valley and the Loire Valley.
Okay, Wiro versus a Waterrow. Let's have a Sauvignon Blanc showdown.
All right, let's start with Loire.
Wiro.
This is generally the warmest subregion in Marlborough.
Okay.
And it's known for its gravelly soil.
Gravelly, like we talked about.
Exactly.
So what kind of Sauvignon Blanc does Wiro produce?
Well, the wines tend to be richer and more fruit-forward.
Ah, so this is where we get those big, bold flavors.
You got it.
Like what?
Well, passion fruit is a classic.
Oh, yeah, that's a signature Marlborough aroma.
It is. And then ripe melon.
Like honeydew?
Yeah, and cantaloupe.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you get that zesty grapefruit.
So it's a real tropical fruit bomb.
It can be very exuberant.
I can imagine.
Now let's move on to a water.
Okay, a water the challenger.
A water is a bit cooler and windier.
Oh, interesting. So a different climate.
It is. And the soils are different, too.
How so?
Well, they have more clay and loatis.
Bois? What's that?
It's a fine, silty soil.
Oh, okay.
And that combination of climate and soil gives the wines a different profile.
So what can we expect from a water Sauvignon Blanc?
Well, they tend to be more herbaceous.
Ah, so more of that grassy character.
Exactly. And they often have a more pronounced mineral edge, too.
So a bit more like the Loire in that respect.
You could say that.
Interesting.
And they typically have a higher level of acidity compared to Wiro.
Oh, so even more zingy.
That's right.
Wow, so even within Marlborough, there's a whole spectrum of styles.
There really is. It just goes to show how important those small variations in terroir can be.
Okay, so we've explored the terroirs and subregions of Marlborough.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about how they actually grow the grapes.
Viticulture Marlborough style.
Exactly. And is it different from the Loire?
Well, there are some similarities, but also some key differences.
Okay, tell me more.
Well, in Marlborough, the main focus is on achieving consistently high quality.
So they're really striving for the best.
They are, and a big part of that is maximizing those vibrant fruit flavors.
Because that's what Marlborough is known for, right?
It is those intense tropical fruit aromas.
Okay, so how do they do that?
Well, canopy management is crucial again.
Ah, right, just like in the Loire.
Exactly. It's all about managing the growth of the vine to ensure the grapes get enough sunlight.
And airflow to prevent diseases.
That's right. And in Marlborough, they often use techniques like leaf plucking.
Leaf plucking. So they literally remove some of the leaves.
They do to allow more sunlight to reach the grapes.
Okay.
And they also do green pruning.
Green pruning. So pruning during the growing season.
That's right. And that helps to control the yield and improve the quality of the remaining grapes.
So it's all about being selective.
Exactly.
And the sources mentioned something called VSP.
Yes. VSP stands for vertical shoot positioning.
Okay, so what is that?
It's a way of training the vine shoots upwards.
Oh, so they grow vertically instead of sprawling out.
That's right.
And what's the benefit of that?
Well, it improves air circulation and sunlight penetration.
Ah, so it's another way of optimizing those key factors.
Exactly. And there's a strong emphasis on sustainability in Marlborough, too.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Yeah, a lot of wineries are adopting sustainable practices.
Like what, for example?
Well, reducing their use of pesticides and herbicides,
Okay.
and conserving water using renewable energy sources.
So it's a holistic approach.
It is. They're trying to minimize their environmental impact.
That's great. And they also mentioned yield control, right?
They did. It's important in Marlborough, too.
Because lower yields mean more concentrated flavors.
Exactly.
And they carefully time the harvest as well.
Hey, they want to make sure the grapes are perfectly ripe.
So it's all about timing.
It really is. They have to pick the grapes at just the right moment to capture those optimal flavors.
Okay, so that's the viticulture. What about the winemaking in Marlborough?
Well, once those grapes are harvested, they're carefully transported to the winery.
For vinification.
That's right. And Marlborough winemaking is all about preserving those vibrant aromas and that pure fruit character.
Because that's what makes Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc so special.
It's their signature style.
So how do they achieve that?
Well, fermentation is typically done in stainless steel tanks.
Ah, just like in the Loire.
Similar, yes, but they often ferment at lower temperatures in Marlborough.
Oh, why is that?
Well, it helps to retain those delicate aromatic compounds.
So it keeps the flavors fresh and vibrant.
Exactly. And they often use specific yeast strains, too.
Yeast strains, so different types of yeast.
That's right. And they choose yeasts that are known to enhance the fruity characteristics of the wine.
So it's like giving the fermentation process a little boost.
You could say that.
And what about pressing the grapes? Do they do anything special there?
They do. They often use gentle pressing techniques.
Gentle, so they don't extract too much tannin?
Exactly. They want to avoid any harsh or bitter flavors.
Okay.
And then they carefully clarify the juice.
To remove any sediment.
That's right. They want a clean, bright wine.
And sometimes they do a bit of sur lie aging.
Yes, that's right. Just like in the Loire.
So leaving the wine in contact with the lees.
Exactly. And that can add a bit of complexity and texture.
And what about oak? Do they use oak in Marlborough?
It's very rare.
So they really want to let the fruit shine through.
That's right. Oak can mask those delicate aromas.
So it's a minimalist approach to winemaking.
In a way, yes. It's about letting the grapes speak for themselves.
I like that philosophy.
And it results in those incredibly expressive wines that Marlborough is known for.
Okay, so we've covered the viticulture, the winemaking.
We'd have.
Now the moment of truth. What does Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc actually taste like?
Well, pour yourself a glass,
So,
and the first thing you'll notice is the color.
oh yeah, what color?
It's typically a brilliant pale straw.
Okay, so quite similar to the Loire in that respect.
Yes, but perhaps a touch more vibrant.
More intense.
Exactly. And then take a sniff
Here we go.
and prepare for an explosion of aromas.
Wow.
It's like a tropical fruit salad in a glass.
So what kind of fruits are we talking about?
Well, passion fruit is a classic.
Ah, yes, the quintessential Marlborough aroma.
It is, and then you often get guava.
Guava, that's exotic.
It is, and then some citrus notes like grapefruit and lime.
So a bit more tartness.
Exactly, and then to balance it out, you get those herbaceous hints.
Like freshly cut grass.
Yes, and maybe a touch of tomato leaf.
Interesting. So it's a really complex aroma profile.
It's incredibly layered and nuanced.
And what about the taste?
Well, those intense fruit flavors really come through on the palate.
So it's not just about the aromas.
No, the flavors are equally bold and persistent.
I'd
And
say-
then you get that incredible, refreshing acidity.
Ah, yes, that zingy, mouth-watering sensation.
That's Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc in a nutshell.
Okay, so it's like a party in your mouth.
You could say that it's definitely a wine that grabs your attention.
And it's so different from the Loire style.
It is, they're both Sauvignon Blanc, but they express themselves and such.